This is Radically Alive Women's Edgecast. Hello and welcome to Radically Alive Women Edgecast, Shalane Hopkins.
Hi.
I'm glad to see you here and meet you for the first time to speak about your journey walking the Te Araroa Trail in New Zealand, which is this trail. It's basically walking from top to south or south to top all the way through New Zealand, through both islands. And you already did that in 2010, just before the trail was officially opened. So you've been really pioneering in that regard. Mm-hmm. And that's where I want to unfold with you in this conversation more about your motivations, your experiences. And before we go there, I'd love to hear more of who are you? Will you share with us who are you right now?
Thanks so much for having me. I think I'll start by saying that I was born in Canada and came to New Zealand in 2010 to walk Te Araroa. And I never intended to stay here in New Zealand, but the journey in walking those 3,000 kilometers led me to fall in love with the country. And so now I'm 15 years later and I'm still here and I'm a Kiwi citizen now. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. It's been a bit of a wild ride the last 15 years, but now I'm at a point where I am revisiting what brought me to New Zealand and what made me fall in love with it and how that's connected with who I am at my core, really.
Yeah, and I would like to hear more about who you are at your core, because I get already a taste of you must be a pioneer. You must be a courageous woman to embark on an adventure and then let the adventure take you somewhere. Yeah, who are you?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's something that I'm coming to terms with myself. I have spent most of my life being a people pleaser, and it's a term or a label that I've carried with me for most of my life, especially in my adult life. And so to hear the word of being courageous, for me, it's only recently that I've started to own that a little bit more and realize that, yeah, I am strong, I am brave, I am courageous. And that's wonderful. That's something to celebrate rather than something to shrink from. And when I walked Te Araroa, it never really felt like I was being courageous. For me, I went into it just wanting a little adventure. I wanted to do something that was a bit different and explore and live out a few of the travel adventure stories that I had read in other authors that have written about their adventures. So I never really came into it going, oh, this is me pioneering and being brave and owning that aspect of it. But as time has gone on, I've faced my people pleasing tendencies and recognizing that that has really held me back from truly owning who I am authentically. And in letting go of that, I've stood up and said, you know what? I did do this. I was brave in doing it. It wasn't easy and rainbows and a walk in the park. It took a lot of grit and a lot of endurance to be able to walk that trail on its own, but it also took a lot more courage to be able to do it when it wasn't even officially opened and so few people had heard about it in that time.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning also that you've written a book about your journey, which is going to be released, I think, in February or end of January. And so this brings you here with a distillation of what what are sort of some core learnings that you took along that path. And what did it take to start that journey? To just go, okay, I'm going to go to this foreign country, New Zealand, and I'm just going to walk the whole country, these 3,000 something kilometers. I'll just do that.
Yeah, it can sound very overwhelming to start a journey like that. For me, I've always enjoyed the outdoors. I've always enjoyed that adventurous aspect of exploring and traveling and having new experiences. And for myself, just months before I learned of Te Araroa, I had actually walked across British Columbia on my own. And for me, that adventure in itself sparked something in me where I was like, I want more of this. And so when I heard of Te Araroa, I knew for myself that was it. But when you relate that to normal life, I think so many of us embark on journeys that seem overwhelming or massive at the beginning. And you have to stop looking at the whole picture and take it back to your first steps and take each goal or each journey one step at a time. And that's what happens to be the name of my book, because one of the biggest lessons I learned in that is it doesn't matter what you're out there conquering in your life. If you are able to take it one step at a time, you'd be amazed at what you can achieve or what you can tap into within yourself. Anything is really possible when you look at it from that mindset. And that's the mindset that I took into Te Araroa, where there were days I wanted to quit. There were days where I wanted to throw in the towel and go, this is too much, or how can I possibly achieve this? But when I thought of it from the mentality of saying, look, I can still do one more day, or I can still do this section, or I can still do one more step, then over time, we were able to complete the 3,000 kilometers and look back and go, yeah, we did it. And yeah.
When you say we, I think you mean that, and that you and all these other parts, right? All the parts that you
Yeah.
are. What kind of parts did you encounter? What other parts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I should also backtrack and clarify that I did walk with a friend. So I did Te Araroa with a friend I had met in Australia. So when I say we, it was two of us doing it, but it was we in the sense of all aspects of myself. And there were days where my courage was able to carry me through the difficult parts, and there was other days where I was just dragging my butt and not really wanting to be part of that, and having to face some inner demons or having to face parts of myself that were reluctant to stand tall or were reluctant to follow through with what I said I would do. And so, yeah, interesting process anyway.
I'm curious whether it was a male or a female friend. Not that it necessarily matters, but I'm curious. Who did you work with?
It was a female friend. We met in Australia and happened to only know each other for 4 days before we decided to embark on Te Araroa together. At the time that I had met her, I was planning to do it on my own because I had not met anyone that was willing to do it with me. And then she heard about what I was planning and said, "Can I come along?" And she was the only person that had ever said that. And so it worked out. And I'm so grateful that she was willing to come with me and that we were able to do it together, because I know without a doubt that I probably wouldn't have finished it on my own. Well, never say never. But that's one of my things. Never say never. But I do know that the journey would have been very different had I gone on my own. And there would have been a lot more challenges had I gone on my own. So to have that partnership with a friend that I had only really recently met and go through that journey together, yeah, it was priceless to have that.
Wow. So how long did you walk together? How, like, over time?
The whole adventure, it starts in Cape Ranga at the top of the North Island and finishes in Bluff. And to go from Cape Ranga to Bluff, it took us 171 days. And we had a couple injuries in there where we had to take rest time out. And then because we were walking over 2010, 2011, we also encountered the Christchurch earthquake, which meant that we took a break to help in the aftermath of that, which would have been in February 2011. So it was 5.5 months to get to the end.
I mean, I'm just like, it's not about the achievement of time. It's more to get a feel for this woman that 4 days before you leave jumps on board and is committed to walk the whole trail with you or together. and then you spend
Yeah.
half a year basically
Yeah.
next to each other. I think that's quite remarkable.
Mm. I've kind of lived my life with the belief that if you're connected with your intuition and who you are at your core, you'll have these moments of really deep clarity around what you're meant to do. And it doesn't always make sense, and it doesn't always fit perfectly where you can answer all the questions that might be there, but you just know inside you that this is what you're meant to do. And like people pleasing, I think, clouds that judgment because you're too focused on what other people need and what other people want and what other people expect. But if you can get beyond that and let go of people pleasing and really connect with who you are, you get these moments of deep clarity. And so for me, joining with my friend Alex was one of those moments where I was so in tune with knowing that I needed to do this journey that when she approached me and said, I want to do it too, can I come along? I just knew, like, it didn't matter that we only knew each other for 4 days. It didn't matter that I didn't even know if she had siblings or if we could be compatible sharing a tent together. Like all those questions, they were in the back of my mind, but I just knew she was meant to go on this journey too. Yeah. And did we have challenges? For sure. But I look back and it's like, I know without a doubt that that was one of those moments where she was meant to be part of it and we made it work.
I feel glad hearing that. It sounds like it becomes super personal at the same time supra personal. Like it becomes this connection inside.
Yeah.
It makes it also bigger than yourself.
Very much so. And I think for many years, that bigness scared me. And I would have moments where I, I guess, approach that and then get scared off and shrink back and return to people pleasing and try to be quote unquote normal and lose that aspect of myself. And 2025 for me has been this year of immense transformation and reflection and really confronting a lot of those things that have held me back in the past from really truly living my own authentic life and recognizing that despite the fear, it is so important to be able to face that inner core or that inner intuition of who you are, because that's where you're able to unlock your full potential. And if you're not willing to face that, then you end up with a life that, for lack of a better word, is mediocre. You're not truly living for yourself then if you're not able to or not willing to connect with who you are.
I'm breathing and leaving some space because this is really, this is boom.
but intense.
No, not intense.
Oh.
I mean, intense, yes, in the best of the word. Intense. Yeah, life is intense. And meeting yourself is intense when you're actually willing to be that intensity in action. And I wonder how you got there. What shifts were necessary, or what were some moments where you're like, where you would notice, wow, I'm doing the people pleasing thing, and it's just what's actually behind it? I'm scared of this, or like, what were some key moments for you?
For me, it's taken, like, since Te Araroa, it's taken me the 15 years beyond that to really be prepared to let go of hiding and shrinking and just living for everyone else but myself. And yeah, it took a bad relationship is what it took, where I realized this one day where I was in this relationship that I was spending the entirety of it chipping away at myself and shrinking myself for someone else's needs and someone else's motivations. And one day something happened and I was able to wake up and go, this isn't me. This isn't the relationship that I ever wanted to be in. It's, it's really harmful for myself as well as my son, and I need to get out of it. And so that for me was like this light bulb moment where I woke up and realized that I had been walking this path that I was never meant to be on. And when I left the relationship, it opened up all this space for me to then reflect and go, okay, well, if that's not what I was meant to be doing, or the relationship that I was meant to be a part of, then what is it that I truly want out of this life? What is it that, I want to be walking towards instead? And that left me just doing months of reflection, really, and therapy, and really tuning into myself and going, well, why did I enter this relationship when I now know that it was just so wrong for me? And why did I actively choose to be part of a toxic dynamic? And why, because you can sit back after a bad relationship and blame the other person all you want and go, it was bad because they did X, Y, and Z. However, I think at some point we need to take ownership and accountability for our own actions. And it's not saying that we're at fault for everything, but it's just saying that I chose to be part of that relationship. I chose to wake up and continue being there. And I chose to ignore the red flags that are flapping in the wind. I chose to ignore that. And through that process, that's where I really realized that I had taken on an identity of people pleasing and let that be my normal day-to-day existence, in worrying about other people's expectations or shrinking down who I was so that I didn't come off as too much for other people. And in that realization, I started to take ownership for my own authenticity and my own journey. And that's what brought me back to Te Araroa, because I realized that doing Te Araroa was one of those moments where I allowed myself to step into who I could be and the potential that I have and what I could accomplish if I let go of everyone else's fears of what I was doing and just went out and did it anyway. And that's what led me to finally properly publish my book and kind of share a bit more of my story and really just walk away from who I had been living for the last 15 years and reclaim that part of myself that has been hiding, for lack of a better word. And yeah, it's kind of brought me to today.
I'm touched by witnessing you and your journey, because there's something there that I think like you're speaking for more than yourself. I think a lot of women have that, and I know that certainly of myself, this hiding, and also the guts it takes to, yes, the journey, you did that journey like 15 years ago, and to go back, to turn around and say, okay, now I'm ready to take this out of the treasure chest and actually make a book out of it. I don't care that it's been 15 years, I know from myself that voice that could say, yeah, but it's so long ago, and da, 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 da. So that, again, this courageous step to like look at the past and look at the gold that's in there and look at the sort of, not even gold. Gold is already like something almost fake precious because we can't eat it. It's like clean, clear water that's in the treasure chest that shows you the preciousness of life that you've lived and the key aspects that have taken you and that have prepared you, or that have also an analogy to what came after that, on your journey of looking really honestly at yourself. And I love this aspect of taking responsibility, not in a way of blaming yourself and in a way of owning. So that's where your power lies, right? It's like, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
I own my part in it, that's the part I can
Mm-hmm.
change. I cannot change the other person. And I don't want to be in a relationship like that again in the future. So what do I need
Exactly.
to shift here? Yeah. Thank you for sharing that
Mm-hmm.
so openly.
Yeah, no problem. And I think what you touched on there is recognizing that you don't want to repeat the cycle that you've been in. And it reminds me, there was something that I saw online with relation to when we're in particularly relationships, but it could be jobs or situations where you're finding a pattern of something repeatedly happening and it's not ideal. You have this choice where you can look at it and say, oh, everyone else is the problem, and generalize and say, you know, all jobs in this industry are bad, or all men are bad, or whatever it is that you want to generalize. Or you can sit back and go, actually, maybe it's the universe that's been trying to teach me something about myself again and again and again. And I just haven't taken the time to tap into that and recognize what I need to do for myself to break that pattern. And for me, the 2025 has been me standing up and recognizing I need to break the pattern. And for myself in my personal journey, that's a multi-generational pattern. But despite the challenges in doing that, it has been so freeing and so energizing and so, how do you say, validating to kind of be coming out the other side and recognizing that I can do that. I can break the pattern. And what lays on the other side of that pattern is something that's just so amazing that it's not going to make me ever want to go back to how I was living before.
How did you notice that there's an intergenerational pattern at work?
Um, I can't take total ownership
Mm.
over that realization because I had a really good therapist that just helped me reconnect with similarities between the relationship I had been part of and my experience in other relationships alongside my childhood experience growing up. And when I started to find the similarities between all them, then that's where I started to see the pattern and recognize how me as a little girl grew up in an environment where I just took on the same patterns of my parents and perhaps their parents as well. And then looking at my son now, recognizing how me doing that then impacts his own childhood and potentially future generations because of that, which that's huge to think of. And I think for myself, I had to really just pare it back and bring it back to the whole idea that here's the pattern and this is what I don't want to repeat. And this is how I can change it. Does it make everything perfect? No, but it's just learning as you go and recognizing that you only know what you know in the moment, but you have to be willing and open to learning every day so that you can continue to grow.
And the image that I also get when I listen to you is it's like we can be so used to standing in a pile of shit and think it smells, it smells familiar. Yeah, or being in a swampy place and it just feels so familiar, even if we don't like it, but at least it's cozy, because we know it.
Yeah.
And what's on the other side might be just so
Yeah.
scary because we don't know it. So
Yeah.
at least we know the shit. And
Mhm.
also from my experience, it's not the enlightenment path of like, well, I'm just going to elevate myself above it and then I will just drop into this higher dimension. It's
Yeah.
more like you need to really dig into the shit and go like fall through the bottom and then you end up in a space that is sort of has fresh air or something. So this is the image that I get when I listen to you.
So true. So true. And you talk and remind me, I've spent some time working in dairy farming, and yeah, you get used to the smell of shit. You do. And it's something that when you work in that environment, you don't even really notice that it's there. And it's not until you've taken a step away from that that you realize how bad it smells.
This
Yeah.
element of actually also bringing in help, I think that doesn't diminish your path in any way. It's like actually seeking also therapists, coaches, people that have a different lens, that have walked a certain path. And if we have sort of a pain in our physical body, we go to a doctor and we see someone that knows more about it than us, that can look from a different lens. And it's the same with some emotional blockages or some energetic or trauma related aspects where, yeah, it's totally okay and also totally necessary sometimes to get help, to just reach out for help and have someone support us on that journey.
Yeah, exactly. If you're in a place where you're looking to grow, you have to make space for that reflection, but you also have to make space in a way that feels safe for you to be honest. And there's people out there that maybe have tried a therapist and don't like them, or try to coach and go, this doesn't work. And if you are connecting in a space where it doesn't feel safe enough for you to be honest with yourself, then it's going to be very challenging to have those breakthrough moments of real change, because it's not enough to just reflect. And the same goes, you don't necessarily have to have a therapist to have these reflections, things like journaling or meditation and all that work as well. But it's just like that combined element of having that space and freedom to reflect while being safe to be honest with yourself, because that can be really scary and really confronting to come to terms with maybe flaws or trauma or patterns in your life that, you know, need a bit of action to break free of it.
Yes. Yes, totally. It's this resourcefulness also inside. And I'm guessing, and I want to check with you, that maybe you access some of that also through walking the Te Araroa trail, the resourcefulness that you have, the variety of resources that are at your fingertips, and maybe also your connection to nature as a resource. What can you say about that?
Mm. Yeah, I think a lot of my experience on Te Araroa around resourcefulness was in the moment with I guess, the physical nature of the trail. So less about the intellectual, emotional side of it, but the logistics around maps or signage or which way do we go, or the weather that's combating us, and navigating that day after day after day. And it wasn't really until the end of the trail that I was able to look back and start to reflect on the emotional journey that I took for those months and how that shifted in me. Uh, but in the moment, there was a lot of having to create plan Bs and then plan Cs and Ds and Es, because the trail was still not quite finished. And you come to a section and you might not know what to expect because the signs aren't there, or the directions are incorrect from what you thought they would be, or the weather's turned and it's not going to be as pleasant of a walk that day as what you thought it would be. And but you carried on because in the moment your goal of reaching your next milestone was more important than whatever discomfort you were feeling in that moment.
Yeah, somehow this seems relevant also to this like journey in life, right? It's like having access to this commitment, like staying connected to the commitment and then going step by step. I get this also this feel of, okay, there is a commitment, there was a commitment in you to walk the trail, and now there's this commitment, or has been this commitment in yours, is this commitment to be your authentic self. And then that pulls forth the next step, like writing a book, like putting yourself out there and showing yourself and stop hiding, which I think is a similar
Mm-hmm.
technology, even if it's not
Exactly.
just
I think that
logistics.
commitment
Yeah.
is key.
Yeah. The commitment is key. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And that doesn't mean that you don't stumble or that you don't maybe divert on your path forward, but it's having that commitment and knowing that you're still going to follow through, and show up and do your best and have that consistency there. And that's going to take you further than anything else, really.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's time to come to an end. It's landing time. And yeah, I mean, maybe there's two questions. One is really this, like, it ties back to what you said at the beginning of our conversation about there comes a point where you just know that you're like, that you need to do something. And this, I think, is the commitment that you're talking about, like this intuition. And how did you learn to make space for this inner knowing? Because I think it's there all the time, but we're so used to pushing that away, most of us. Like, how do you make space for that? And what could someone that listens do to make space for that in themselves, to listen closer to their intuition?
I think there's lots of ways. I don't think that there's one singular way to connect with your inner intuition that works for everyone. And like some people might take a religious take on it and think of, when they're praying and they hear the voice of whatever deity they believe in, and that can connect them to whatever path that they're meant to be aligned on. Some people might use meditation as a way to just find stillness in their life without direction and really tune into what's going on with themselves and where, where they should be going with their life. Journaling is another great one. It's just really finding that space without distraction, where you're not thinking about what other people are doing, saying, being, whatever, and you're just really tuning into yourself and your own journey. I think for me, more recently, it's been journaling that I've tapped into. I'm naturally someone who enjoys writing. And so having that space where I can process my thoughts has always been a really great way for me to connect with myself and what's going on and find clarity in that. And the other one that I also tap into is numerology. And it's not something that I claim to be an expert on at all, but it's just recognizing patterns in numbers. And for me, that has often brought clarity in some decisions, if it's big decisions, little decisions, but just a little bit of comfort from whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, whatever that's out there, and just giving me a nudge that, yeah, you're on the right track. But this last year, I've learned that the more you're able to connect with yourself and your inner intuition, the louder that voice becomes, and less you need to actively sit down and construct the environment to make that happen. It just starts to happen more naturally because you start to recognize that voice as yourself. And previously, when I would be in my element of people pleasing, I couldn't hear that voice because I was too distracted by everyone else's. And in this last year, I've started to reconnect with my own intuition enough that I don't necessarily need to sit down and journal, or I don't need to talk to someone to sort out for me what is best in my situation. I'm able to go, no, this is just where I need to go. This is the path I need to go on, because that voice has become louder than everyone else's around me. I think that answered your question.
Perfectly and deeply so. Thank you so much, Shalane. Just another hint that your book, One Step at a Time, will be available from February. Is that accurate?
Yes, in February it'll be distributed worldwide, bookshops, libraries, and that sort of thing. If you have any questions, you can see me on my website.
And I will link both of that, the book and the website, to the description of this episode. Thank you so much for reclaiming yourself and showing up. Thank you, Shalane.
Thank you so much for having me.